The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes. Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota has received 226 votes.
Went a little bit longer because we've been doing this for a long time, and I thought it might be good to just kind of savor the moment. It's been
I could watch that all
years.
day. I could watch it all day, Eric. You could replay that at any time.
Anyway, also in Trump's press conference this morning, he expressed something that I think you will enjoy.
Is that invading Panama? Oh, go ahead. I didn't see the presser, but I'm enjoying it. Anyway, I think did he discuss invading Panama to take back the canal, or is that what you were looking for? Or
did that not show up on the screen? It did not.
No,
show up on the
that
screen.
did not show
okay,
up on the screen.
apologize.
Oh, wait a second. Here comes something. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry about that.
A horrible place. One of the things we're going to do is we've got to fix the election so that we get honest counts and they get done by 10 o'clock in the evening or something thereabouts. They have places where they're still counting votes.
So he is very aware of the continuous counting in the California. So hopefully,
well, the counting was interrupted because of the fires today, but we'll get back to counting after the fires are put out in Topanga. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, something's got to give here. You can't count forever.
I agree. And yeah, I did. I heard that, and I didn't pull every single clip from the press conference about that, but definitely I did pull, a little here and there. The Greenland thing, the Panama thing, a lot is going on. Obviously, we're going to be talking about these today.
Well, he sent his son over there like he would for a scouting event to see what building they were going to buy. In other words, it almost seemed like a corporate move on the part of Trump Jr. to go to Greenland and look around. Like, what are we getting here, folks? You know what I mean? Like, is this him with somebody or?
Yeah.
Okay, we're here in Greenland with Don Jr.
Then.
Everyone wants to be on TikTok.
What do you guys think of America?
Great.
Love America, and you love Trump?
Yes, of course.
The youth of Greenland,
We're
Don.
hearing a lot of it, guys. We're hearing a lot of it.
And you guys all watch TikTok, right?
Of course. I'll follow you.
Oh, thank you.
So what I think it is, Mark, is it's not just a corporate thing. I think it's a maneuver because the Prime Minister of Denmark made the mistake of making the statement saying that Greenland is for the people of Greenland, and essentially said it's up to them. So now they're over there wooing the people of Greenland. How should
I think you froze up there a little bit.
they come up with the voters and say, "Hey, we want to go." That will help in the negotiation.
Well, I'll tell you, he took it a step further. They changed the coat of arms of Denmark to include illustration of Greenland. They altered their coat of arms yesterday, their official national symbol, to include Greenland into it. So they're pushing back very hard, Eric.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? And whatever happens, it's dumb of them not to, because it's a negotiation.
Mhm.
Even if they are going to sell, you want the maximum
Oh
possible.
yeah, no, I don't begrudge them. Yeah, it's fine.
Somebody came up with this map I think you might like. Notice the
God.
placement of everything there, and notice the part that's kind of left out. I'm sorry, David. Poor Viva Fry, his homeland. We don't want it.
This girl was on from Rebel News yesterday. Oh no, it was Levant. Levant was on, the head of Rebel News. There was also a reporter on from Rebel News talking about Trudeau. But Levant was on, and he was asked about the annexing of Canada by the United States, and he says, "Watch what you pray for, because you'll end up with this far left Quebec province that only speaks French. You may not want to go that far." He says, "Out west, it's wonderful. We're all conservative." He says, "But you got to take the good with the bad."
And there you have it.
That's that part right there goes with it.
Circle it out.
Yeah.
We'll take the rest. You
Yeah.
can stay.
Well, they were separate. There was a separate separatist movement in the 70s. The QLF was their version of the Weather Underground. They hit out Abby Hoffman for a couple of minutes in the 70s.
Under Trudeau's father, if I recall.
That's right. Yeah. In and around McGill University, by the way, the alma mater of the Vivas.
Yes. Absolutely. So should be entertaining.
That being said, this other woman was on from Rebel News who said that Trudeau is not leaving. That was a complete fake out. And until his Liberal Party finds his replacement that he approves of, he doesn't have to go anywhere. So he may be there for a long time. Maybe a year from now. At least till the summer, Eric.
Well, the election is just next year, I believe. So,
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Nobody gives up power. You have to be forced out. His approval rating, by the way, is at 20%, possibly the lowest of any world leader. 20, not 35, 20. I didn't know that.
Well, from what I understand, and I'm not hip on Canadian politics, but he's facing losing like over 100 seats or something. It's so far in the gutter.
That's what it's going to take. In other words, he's not voluntarily stepping down. You need to drive a stake into these people's vampire hearts to get them out of there.
You're being corrected there, Mark. Apparently 16%.
Okay. Well, that's what Rebel News said last night. So I'm only
it's continuing to fall. We've been to zero in the bullet.
Yeah, Nixon was at 18, I think, when he left. So I don't know what Congress right now, I think it's at 18, but maybe it'll go up. But his opponent, the Liberal, is at 44% of Trudeau's opponent, or theoretical opponent.
Oh, Polyev?
Yeah, he's at 44. But again, he hasn't governed, so those are artificially high numbers.
True. I have that clip of.
Well, we got all this foreign news. Why don't we move over to, as long as we're talking about the British Empire, with Canada and the Five Eyes, why don't we move over to England, the UK, with this battle with Musk, Eric?
Well, Starmer, I don't have an article handy, but that's a very interesting situation.
Okay.
On it, yeah.
We don't need no stinking article. Go ahead.
Elon Musk has been on a crusade, just calling him out day after day after day after day. And yesterday, Starmer actually stopped in the middle of his press conference about the National Institute of Health.
Yeah.
So he was over visiting there, talking about, the government policy for that. And in the middle of it had to say, okay, and I need to address essentially the Elon Musk thing as soon as the reporters came in. And, according to him, it's, of course, a far right grab, blah, 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 blah. There are people, I guess his subordinates or whatever, going around saying, well, he may have to be ending our security arrangement with the United States. And I'm saying, go.
Yeah, I agree.
Do it, please.
And that's not a
great
negotiation.
Idea.
That's a threat. There's a difference between a negotiation and a threat, Eric, as you're well aware. I mean,
True.
the Danish thing is a negotiation.
Oh, yeah.
This is a threat. I mean, they are messing with the wrong guy because Trump would love to get out of that and just let England, float out there into the North Atlantic somewhere.
Could you imagine if they stated that and Trump just said, "Okay, we're done, and now tariff time."
Yeah,
all one sweep, just boom.
I think tariff time is coming anyway because he used it effectively with Trudeau threatening the tariffs. And I've recommended it on this show for weeks that we got to go after the UK and rescue these poor people. And now Musk is basically echoing what you and I have been saying for weeks, that these people need to be rescued from a fascist totalitarian regime, just like the Nazis. I'm sorry if they sound British. I'm sorry if they sound like they're from Monty Python, but fascism is fascism, even if it comes in with a British accent, Eric.
Oh yeah, well, and Musk is taking it personally. He even wrote, I believe it's today, about his grandmom who is English, so he's got family there.
Yeah.
This is pretty close to him. England.
I mean, look,
the
the three of these Commonwealth, or whatever they are, of the British Commonwealth, Australia, UK, and Canada, are the most fascistic countries on earth in terms of loss of civil liberties, eavesdropping, monitoring, censorship, jailing them, oppressing them.
Hold on, don't leave New Zealand out. They I'm
going to throw in New Zealand too. I'm going to throw in New Zealand. So that's four. Okay, I mean, these countries have to be liberated, quote unquote, whether it's by tariffs or gunboat diplomacy or saber rattling or whatever you want to do. This cannot continue. This thing with these grooming gangs, Eric, which is now finally seeing the light of day after 10 years of this. I saw Jordan Peterson on talking about it the other night, and it's shocking. It's probably the most shocking crime in world history, other than the Holocaust.
What was it? It was like hundreds of men in one small town.
Yes,
it won't even go wider. And Starmer was the head prosecutor.
That's right. That's right. You know what needs to be done? There has to be a group like the deplorables, the dependables, the Sylvester Stallone retired special forces who go in there and liberate this town. I mean, that would be a great film, where these guys say enough is enough and go into that town and take them out, and rescue these people, Eric.
Yeah, and it was actually shameful. I don't even remember anymore. I can't keep up with everything who was talking about, but I think it was Tommy Robertson was talking, I think, to Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
About who knows how to deal with these grooming games. And it's the sheiks.
Yeah.
Apparently, they, because of the culture, all that, they literally in their mosque or whatever, they line up all their women and their children. They're saying, look, if people do this, don't do that. Do people do this, do that? And Robinson was complaining that, the Brits don't even teach their kids to watch out for this kind of behavior. So it's like, that's not an accusation. I was just saying, it's kind of like, hey, if a stranger walks up to you and says, hey, kid, would you like candy? Don't take it. That's in essence what he's saying. Hey, can we tell them these are behaviors that you need to watch out for? Tell your mom.
Well, that's all great. But I mean, these are gangs that are literally kidnapping them. That is like a one-on-one situation. You're correct about that. But this thing is mass organized, apparently, Eric.
It's, yes, it's a huge problem. I'm just talking, all together, because you want to find them. All of them.
Well, they live there. They live in the town. I mean, it's the whole town doing it, apparently.
I don't know. It's dark. It is as dark as you can get.
Yeah.
And of course, people are voting and campaigning on the fact that they're going to do Sharia law. It's like, are you crazy?
Look, either you give up and let them take over your country, or you fight back. That's where it is right now. And we can help them. That's the whole point of what we've been saying for weeks. They need help. We have to go in there. And if it's the military, it's the military. If we have to send in special forces, send in special forces into UK. They've been in there before in World War II, and they'll be in there again. This is a desperate situation for these people in UK.
I agree. And horrible. But all right, well, back to our hemisphere for a second. I don't know if you saw this from Trump.
The same thing with Mexico. We have a massive deficit with Mexico, and we help Mexico a lot. They're essentially run by the cartels, and can't let that happen. Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place. And we're going to be announcing at a future date pretty soon. We're going to change because we do most of the work there, and it's ours. We're going to be changing sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Is he serious? I mean,
I don't know with him.
you can't. It's such
lot
a
of territory.
dry
The Gulf
sarcasm.
of America.
That's a
It's such
troll.
dry
It's such a perfect troll.
Queen's sarcasm. I mean, the Ramones had it. You know, Run DMC had it. Run DMC had it. There's a lot of guys from Queens. Lou Reed, the most sarcastically dry guy you'd ever talk to. You could talk to Lou Reed and think you're talking to Donald Trump. Just from people from Queens who understands this. The people in Brooklyn are much more emotional and much more outgoing. People in Queens have that dry sense of humor, and it's not even a sense of humor; it's a dry sarcasm where you can't tell if they're serious or not. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, look, I don't know. He's going to change the name back to Mount McKinley from Denali up in Alaska. He's talking about taking the Panama Canal by force if necessary. Okay, I'm not opposed to any of these things.
Well, they also asked him if he was, he got into it with one of the reporters. I didn't get that clip, but are you going to preemptively strike Iran nuclear facilities? He said, I'm not going to answer that. That's military. And the reporter's like, it's a legitimate question. He's like, no, it's actually kind of stupid. Right, no, I'm not going to answer military.
Well, what about
strategy.
those young reporters who met with the president for the first time? And, they asked him if his age was a problem. And he said, I know more world leaders than you'll know in your goddamn life. You want to explain that to me? How this is now the real Biden, that he's not even pretending to be ambassadorial any longer. He's just
does that, though. That was part of his dementia. He lashes out at reporters from time to time. He's been doing it now for a few years.
Except that people are now saying it's not dementia, that this is the real guy that goes back to the 70s. This is the way. There's footage of him doing that when he didn't have dementia in the 70s was a take I took away from that story. And it wasn't my take on it. It was some other reporter's take that this is the real guy, that he's just saying, F it. Go F yourself, and he's lashing out at everyone, separate from Alzheimer's, separate from old age. There's footage of him doing this early on in his career, Eric.
Well, he's a nasty guy.
Right.
That's obviously the filters are off.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying. I think he banned cigarettes today. This is becoming like the Woody Allen movie where the dictator takes over and says you have to wear the underwear on the outside of your pants, and we're going to check on Wednesdays as his first rule. Being a dictator, it's now random shit. 2 guys that he pardoned or commuted on death row now don't want to be commuted because that would they're fighting their death row sentencing of their own cases. So they're now demanding that he uncommute their sentences because they're claiming they didn't do the crime, and it would cut off all legal remedy for them. To get out of life in prison, Eric.
Interesting. Now, that actually makes sense.
Yes, I didn't understand this story. They don't want it commuted. They're saying we're freaking innocent, bro. You're now killing us a second time by cutting off our legal rights. Boy, what a debacle. What a debacle.
That's an interesting case.
Yes,
man.
yes.
I
That's
never
2 of them already. And there may be more.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He seems to be in a race to screw up as much as he can before he gets out the door. So I don't even know
something about this flag thing. I mean, okay, so he comes in a couple of days. The flags are at half staff, right? Mm-hmm. There's two takes on this thing, in my opinion. One is at 12:01, a guy goes up on top of the White House and raises the flag. Okay. My second take is this is all because of Carter and the 30 days, which only started in 1952 under Eisenhower, a presidential death flags at 30 days half staff, Eric. So they're celebrating this because they want the flags at half staff because of Trump coming in, the Democrats. So they've refused to raise the flag even for his inauguration, Eric. That's I'm going with the story. So my take on this thing is Mike Johnson, who is running the House, can order that flag to be raised to full staff. Mike Johnson can order it. Or number two, and people can vote on their own down below in the comment section which one they prefer. At 12:01, they raise it up in celebration of Trump's inauguration and do it that way. Because this is an artificial tradition that only goes back to Eisenhower. This 30-day thing with the president dying is what I'm talking about. So I wanted to get your opinion.
Well, it's more than a tradition. It's actually a law. Because when I was in the military.
What law is that?
Oh, well, I mean, it's something we were in the military. It's written down. I don't know I can't spit out the exact code, but there is a legal code and everything else that does exist. It is a law.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree and say it's a tradition from 1952, but we'll figure that out.
Well, it became a law in 1952.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. But nevertheless,
the U.S. flag code. There is a U.S. flag code.
Has nothing to do with the death of a president.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's everything I've been trained on. Everything else. Yeah, it is actually a law. So
well, people in the chat can look it up. I don't. Have
for right UAC Chapter 1, the flag. Yeah, go and look it up. I don't know. We're in the middle of a show, so I can't do it.
The problem is they are celebrating this as because Trump is coming into office, not about Jimmy Carter so much, which I think his funeral is today, right?
He's laying in state. He's laying in
they're
state.
moving him to the rotunda, right? Okay,
correct.
Where he'll be lying in state for how long?
I don't know,
like 3 days or something?
Whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, 4 USC 7. So we put in the chat. But anyway, everybody comment below because then we can define it further. But I know.
Yeah, define it further because I'm under the impression that it's a 1952 presidential act by Eisenhower.
Right. Well, here's the irony. I mean, Trump technically, the second he goes into office, could say, "Okay, now raise the flag."
No, right. Well, that's what I was saying about the
an executive order.
That's the second part to vote on is the 12:01 rule, as I'm calling it, where he's at 12:01, he's president, and that's one of the things that he changes.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
If need be, or just ordering it flown at full staff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and they could always put it up for a day and put it right back down, half staff.
Right, which is what they asked her in the press conference yesterday, the Haitian girl, and it was a number of questions about this in the presser yesterday in D.C. So we'll see what happens there. Okay.
All right. We'll get into the corporate world. We talked briefly about Musk. Somebody else is stepping up to the plate, and that is Zuck is trying to get in on some of that action. And
someone also said this is another fake out, that they're just changing the name of it. I haven't had a chance to go deep on this thing, but some community notes have been put up saying he's merely changing the name to something else.
Well, here's his.
Hey, everyone. Okay.
Let me go into it a little because I don't want to.
Is this a hairstyle from 10 years ago, or he just got this hairstyle?
He's had it off and on.
Okay.
Focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US.
Okay, so people are probably complaining because some people hate community notes. I know I'm on it, and it's like, no, it's not like, well, yeah, technically, Meta has paid fact checkers as organizations that it pays to do fact checking.
Right.
If they eliminate those organizations or stop paying them and do community notes, then technically, yes, they are getting rid of the fact checkers.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, technically he's correct. Technically he's correct, but let's see what he says. Okay.
After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
Well, hold on. Wait, what
Started
did he
as
just
a
say,
movement to be more-
Eric? What was that?
Getting rid of some of the DEI and content policies, and
Of his own company.
Right. And as he's putting, like, especially the community notes angle, he's saying a lot more, quote, bad stuff is going to come through, but fewer accounts are going to get eliminated, things like that. So he's supposed, ruling on the side of more freedom.
Okay.
Increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California.
No,
and
what?
Our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas.
What?
As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about
Less
the bias
taxes.
of our teams.
Yeah.
Finally,
All right. Oh,
we're
go
going to
ahead.
work with President Trump to
Oh,
push back
oh,
on
that-
governments around the world that are going after American
oh.
companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression
dear
in the
God.
world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that...
Okay, so a lot of this, yes, I like the results. Everybody knows that he's kissing the ring and he's going for it, but it's also about money. Let's be honest, people are getting locked up for posts in England. This directly threatens Facebook, the usership, and the bottom line. So of course he's going to want to push back on these European countries and whatnot because it affects him directly. So I'm not saying it's a charity, but I'll take whatever improvement I can out there, however, mitigated it is, if you will.
Well, I think he should be indicted on federal election interference charges. I think he should lawyer up. I think he should go to court. I think he should be hopefully convicted, sentenced to a massive fine and probation. The probation itself would keep his feet to the fire, I believe, in terms of whatever mumbo jumbo he's talking about now out of fear of the Trump era coming in. You can't just keep switching your policies every 4 years to comply with the current power base. There's got to be retribution on this guy. I understand that he's now switching horses in midstream because Trump is the new guy, but he interfered with the election. Those are the charges that he should be charged with, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law to scare the living shit out of any other social media operative that may be out there. And maybe give him immunity so he can name the names of the people under him who physically did it. I don't know, but this ain't going to cut it. There's got to be.
This is Trump's thought on it, if you're curious.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think they've come a long way. Meta. Facebook. I think they've come a long way. I watched it. The man was very impressive. I watched it. Actually, I watched it on Fox. I'm not allowed to say that. Say it?
Do you think he's directly responding to the threats that you have made to him in the past? With
Probably. Yeah, probably.
So he's pretty
Okay,
much
so
on
there's
board.
no punishment. There's no punishment. The second he leaves office, Zuckerberg's going to go back to doing what he did because this guy refuses to jail him. I'm hoping Pam Bondi gets fired by Trump for going after Zuckerberg when Trump tells her to lay off of Zuckerberg and she says, "Sir, I'd rather resign." Because this guy has got to be incarcerated or at least given probation and massive fines, but there has to be a trial. Somebody's got to go to trial. You can't just intimidate people, have them change horses and think that's justice. That's not justice. That's bullying. And it's very effective. And I'm not, obviously we're the ones who will gain from this. But again, 4 years from now, God forbid they ever get back in power, you think Zuckerberg's going to stand up and say the same thing? Ha! Ha!
I agree. I mean, but it's what do you want? This is Trump.
I understand it, but
I don't foresee Bondi with her record, especially against guns and everything else. I really don't see Bondi being the one who's going to stand up on this principle.
Okay,
I'll be shocked, but if you're a fan, that's cool.
No. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that should be the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the way it works. Having dinner with the guy and blessing him and saying, change your policies and I won't indict you. That is not democracy to me, Eric. That's not justice. I'm sorry. That is just going to reverse it back the other way once he leaves.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And like I said, I didn't think it was a charity or anything else. I think it's a bottom line decision. I'm hoping, I'm a big believer in Andrew Breitbart's statement, politics is downstream of culture. And I am hoping that the cultural shift has moved to such a degree that it would not pay off to go back. Even never mind the retribution, all that, we could talk about that too. But I still want the culture shift to be the political shift to where it's offensive to go back to the way it was before.
It was offensive to go where we went, but it didn't stop them. I mean, there was a culture shift to get where we were. I mean, to think that it's not going to change the other way would be naive. I mean, it's gone back and forth, as you and I have seen.
Well, I agree. And that's where I'm hoping that as the culture shifts, though, we can put things into law. Like, I am not a fan of executive orders. I want laws. I want this put into place as a law because, Biden, who literally just wrote new executive orders yesterday, I believe it was, banning more drilling. I'm like, what is this, 2 weeks?
And what about cigarettes? What about cigarettes?
Or whatever. I'm just like, these are just getting ludicrous. And obviously Trump can flip them the next day. But is the idea that he writes so many of them that Trump can't keep track of all the orders so they can linger around?
Got me. I mean, this reconciliation bill, he wants it as fast as possible. But Mike Johnson, who I'm no fan of, is saying it may take till April or May for the bill to be compiled. And part of the reason is you those seats that have disappeared in the Congress will be refilled, and he'll have a 3-seat buffer instead of a 1-seat buffer. So we're going to see how demanding Trump is to get this reconciliation package with a 1-seat majority, where Johnson is saying, "I need more wiggle room, sir."
Which is a fair request, considering who's the guy who gave away the congressional seats.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was also the question whether it should be 1 bill or 2 bills, and
look,
one seems to make more sense because it's going to be a nightmare to pass anyway. Nightmare passing 1 is probably better in the end than trying to pass 2 nightmares.
I agree. Did you see Mike Johnson looking at Kamala Harris's ass, by the way, in that video?
I saw him kind of laughing his ass off, but
but he just kept looking her up and down from behind. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on there, but how awkward is that? Because remember, Al Gore had to go through the same thing, Eric.
Did he talk about himself in the third person?
Did he? I think so. I think he did.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that because it is such a formal document. It's like you're in position. And that's like somebody else brought up.
If anyone in the chat remembers if Al Gore said Al Gore as opposed to me, please let us know.
Right. And somebody else brought up, I think it was Jeremy from the corner. He was pointing, he goes, wait a minute. She was just addressed as Madam President. They need to get over it. But the truth is, she's president of the
Of
Senate.
the Senate.
And,
Oh, of
and
course,
a senator
of
said
course.
Madam anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So, some things are formality, and it is what you can do. But it has
Right.
to hurt her a little every time she hears Madam President.
Oh, well, they were counting the electoral votes, and she did win California. They did win state by state, and she, the ones that she did win, they cheered for her to win California. But
I saw that she
Apparently.
had a cheering section too.
she had a
I'm like,
cheering section over there. Good luck.
okay, well, here you go. Get your cheer. How do you feel? Congrats. I don't know.
The Al Gore. There might have been other advanced versions of this through American history, but the one I remember is Gore v. Bush, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the biggest one that went to the Supreme Court and all that.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the last that I've seen on it, that after all the recounts or whatever, because I think they paid CBS or somebody paid for it to do, that Bush actually did come out with the votes.
Oh, yeah.
in
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
Like a couple years later, they
Yes,
finally
it
figured
took a
out.
long time to count.
So, well,
Yeah,
hey,
I
there you go.
think he's got to get this law about the long count in federal elections on the books.
Immediately.
At a minimal, an executive order. At a minimal, an executive order.
Well, he
I
could
don't
do an
know
executive order while the law is getting negotiated.
That's what I mean. Because
Yeah.
everything that he's doing now, do not wait till October of the 26 midterms. The 20. Give me a break. This has got to be done now.
Yeah.
Please, because they'll go to court and tie it up for 6 months, and it's got to. They're very slow on the uptake of these things. That's all I could tell you.
Well, everything moves slow. I mean, if you've ever worked in the government, you know that.
Well, executive orders don't have to be slow. I'm sure he's going to sign a slew of them on the 20th, right, Eric?
Ideally, hopefully, right after some pardons.
Well, if you remember, like
Jimmy
every
Brett-
time. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm just
No.
curious.
Every time there's been an election contested, you have to have a senator and a congressman. Remember and speaking of Bush v. Gore, they had a bunch of congressmen standing up, but they didn't have a senator to come on board for that ruling for a recount in the House and the Senate, Eric. The rule has always been you need at least one senator to come on board. Well, somebody has made a very interesting observation. During the 2020 election, they had multiple United States senators lined up to back up their contesting of the recount of the election and the uncertification of it. And that was interrupted that very minute by the insurrection. The timing of it, this is something I never realized before. This was totally coordinated to allow the insurrection, quote unquote, insurrection to happen at the same time the vote was going on in the House about the electors. Ted Cruz was standing there to be the first senator to back this up, and there were 6 others who were also lined up to do this. They all changed their vote later in the day after the insurrection, and the entire thing was put to bed. That was the point of the insurrection. The phony insurrection was designed to stop this challenge of the electors. And we'll go into it next week on the show because I'm doing more research on this. But this
Where'd you hear this? Because this is new.
It's all new. I'm going to talk about it on Friday. This is all new. You can look at 2 clocks simultaneously in the House and in the Capitol of the insurrection occurring simultaneously, letting them in. That's why they're waving them in like a third base coach to get in there.
Oh.
Dude, it's all crystal clear. The planning that went into this is probably the most planning since the Normandy invasion. And I mean the stealing of the election.
And that
plus
explains the
this.
Feds saying, come on, let's advance. Let's get in there.
Yes. Ted Cruz was standing there and 6 other senators. You could look at footage from other elections where the Democrats challenged other elections, file footage after file footage where they don't have a senator to back them up, a congressman challenging Republican victories. And they said, please sit down, ma'am, you don't have a senator, including Maxine Waters and others in previous elections.
Dustin saying Hawley is one of the few to speak out, and he lost a book deal over it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about ready to vote on the floor right then and there. He's right about that book deal. But Cruz was standing by, and all you need is one senator, just one. Cruz was going to be that guy, and there were 6 others ready to go that afternoon in real time as they were coming over to the Capitol, Eric.
Wow.
Yes, wow, this is what it was about. It was to stop the contesting of the electoral votes, and Pence was in on it. Pence was in on it, bro. Dude, this is the biggest scandal in American political voting history. This was a coup d'etat. That's why there was no National Guard. That's why everybody was told to stand down. Every single part of this was to stop the challenge of a recount of the electoral and bring in the other electors. That's what this was about, to have a senatorial challenge. The entire thing was linked to that. Wow. Wow. Far bigger than I ever imagined.
Great. I definitely want to see more on that.
Okay. Well, I'll show you after the show because I got a lot of stuff on this now.
No, definitely. I mean, like I said, they've done a fantastic job of what a brilliant plan.
It's genius. It's sheer genius. And so ballsy. Who would have had the balls to go this far? They knew these senators were going to stand up. They knew that they were going to challenge this in the House. They knew that, and they had this plan ready to go for months. For months, this phony insurrection.
Wow. All right, everybody clip that and get it out there on X so people will be standing by on Friday.
Bro. Yeah.
And by the way, somebody clipped the show and they apologized for clipping it to me. No, don't ever apologize. If you guys want to clip anything from here and share it to the world, please share. It helps people discover the show. We do appreciate it. So,
well, I'm more interested in the message than the show, but either way, Eric's right.
Well, however you get it, the message and the show, they go together. All right, but while we're on January 6th, let's talk about it.
Yeah, this was Jonathan Gross last night. A friend of the show, has been on the show a couple of times. This is one of his clients, a J6er, obviously broadcasting from inside the gulag of the DC jail with Rob Schmidt last night, trying to get the blanket pardons that we've discussed on the show. Barnes has finally come around, saying he's now for complete blanket pardons. I've never deviated from this from day one, believing, as Jonathan will explain, the entire process was corrupt. So you will not be able to discern right from wrong in any meaningful way any longer because they've bastardized the entire process. So maybe we could play this clip. Maybe they can explain it.
Jimmy Brett is charged with what's called civil disorder 18 USC 231A3. It's a felony that carries 5 years in prison, and it's for any act. That's what the statute says. Any act that interferes with, impedes, or obstructs a police officer during a civil disorder. So I want to be clear about this because it came out at Jimmy's trial. We had one of the officers on the stand who claimed that he was interfered with, impeded, or obstructed by Jimmy because Jimmy was in the crowd. They never made contact. This is an end run by the government to get people with a felony who did not do an assault. And I asked him, I showed him a big panoramic view of the crowd of hundreds of people on the West Lawn who were observing the police line. And I said, is that guy committing the civil disorder? Is he impeding you? He says, yes. What about that guy? Yes. That guy? Yes. Every person there is what Judge Catelli has said is a raindrop in a great storm and is guilty of everything. And it's almost arbitrary who the government charges with the felony and who is just misdemeanors.
Yeah, in other words, what Jonathan was telling me during the past couple of weeks is they made these felonies of obstruction of justice. You could be 200 yards away from a cop, and the cop is now testifying that you're obstructing justice because you. And he literally. What's that?
He feels threatened or whatever.
No. It's not even a feeling. They're saying you're close enough, even if it's in a crowd, to obstruct justice of a police officer. So you are now guilty of a felony. That's never been done
Same
before.
thing with Mexico. We have.
Sorry.
That's never been done before, Eric. And that's what his client, one of his clients, he's got a number of clients, but that's what this client was charged with. They literally rewrote the law to get him up from a misdemeanor to a felony, is what Jonathan's talking about.
Wow. Well, to continue on that, Trump was asked about it at his press conference earlier. So I just wanted to put these all together because I think there's a lot of relevance January 6th. And obviously the...
Will you pardon anyone who attacked a police officer?
Well, you know, the only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady named Ashley Babbitt. She was killed. And there was actually somebody else that was killed, also a MAGA person, but people don't give it 100% credibility. I'm going to find out about it. We're going to find out. But Ashley Babbitt was killed. She was shot. She had never been shot. She was shot for no reason whatsoever. In fact, they say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the crowd was made up of a lot of different people. So we'll see. But I will tell you this: the person that was killed was Ashley Babbitt. The other thing is, when they talk, you know, there was never charges of insurrection or anything like that. But if there were, this would be the only insurrection in history where people went in as insurrectionists with not one gun. Okay? And let me tell you, the people that you're talking about have a lot of guns in their home for hunting and for shooting and for entertainment, a lot of good reasons. But there wasn't one gun that they found. And why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? You know, they know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI knows who it is. The status of the FBI has gone down so far.
Well, he successfully ducked the question by not answering it. So the reality of it is, this is a non-debatable point. He ducked it right there, but it's either he does it or he doesn't. The entire MAGA universe is assuming this is going to happen. You know, Sean Spicer was talking about it yesterday with Halpern, and Spicer said, "I'm assuming it's going to be blanket pardons." They have raised this up to such a level now where if it's not, is Spicer, who was on yesterday talking about it with...
this is today. It's not Spicer. This is somebody else, but you can go on with what you're saying and I'll play.
Yeah, I'm saying yesterday, Spicer talked about the blanket pardons and said that everyone's assuming that's where we're going on January 20th. Trump not answering that question does not make it any more clear.
Well, and everybody gets mad at me when I say I hope, because I listen for him saying that, but he has repeated multiple times he will.
Yeah.
And really, I don't give a damn if he ducks the question 100 times. As
long
as he
does
it on the 20th.
Right, exactly.
And
in other words,
smart
I agree.
for him to duck it, so it doesn't get the headlines. He wants it in a narrow band. Like he does it, it's done. There's a bunch of other news at the same time, because that's what Spicer said. He said he wants to flood the zone.
Yeah.
And so, that'll just be one thing.
This is a real MAGA challenge, because either he does it or he doesn't. We're going to know from day one which Trump we're getting here, because if he doesn't do that, all bets are off. All bets are off.
And I really am. I think that it is smart of him to not be clear. Just do it. And then when it's done,
that's okay. I don't mind. I don't care, because January 20th is January 20th. There's no wiggle room on Trump's part. Either you do it or you don't, bro. You know, if you don't do it, it's going to be a dark time.
Oh, and then he's going to lose all political capital.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Spicer, I think you've said, well, it's like, look, right now, the political capital Trump has is MAGA, who will threaten to primary everybody, who will go around and challenge all these people to their faces and their home districts, saying, you're wrong, making it uncomfortable. They've gone on and up. But if he doesn't do it, MAGA will stay home.
Dude, I'm telling you, this, I am not, look, it is what it is. Either he does it or he doesn't do it. So it's no point in getting worked up over it 10 days before the thing where he's promised to do it. So I am assuming, like Spicer is, that he's going to do it. And the system is so corrupted, it's so disgusting, that you have to have these blanket pardons for everyone.
Yeah. Now I wanted to share this because this is actually a follow-up today
Okay.
from Dan Turrentine, who I do like, but he was talking about it yesterday when Spicer was bringing all that up. And so today he had to apologize about something.
Mark, just before you
Yeah.
do that, I need to
Yeah.
just several people yesterday.
Oh yes, I apologize. I meant to give. I apologize for not giving you a chance to apologize. Dan, the floor is yours to do something for which you've already been lauded by Hugh Hewitt.
Well, I'm very grateful for all the people who watch this show. And when we make a mistake, point it out on X and in the chat. Yesterday, when we were talking about January 6th, I mentioned that police officers were injured, some of whom then went on to die as a result.
I remember that.
That's not true.
Yep, several people pointed that out. I actually did not know that, so I looked it up and was
It's
somewhat
shocking.
myself,
I
but,
watched that show. I
in
watched them
fairness
say
to everyone,
it. Yeah.
that is not true. My larger point that people should be held accountable for injuring people. And
anyway, I just want to point
I
out
agree.
because he is a pretty level-headed guy, not unreasonable, but here it is. That narrative is so damn strong. And
But
even later
it's
in the
also
show,
the narrative is so strong that 75 million Americans don't believe it. That's
Right.
how strong the narrative is.
Right.
75 million people don't believe that narrative.
right. But
Okay,
even
so
in
it's
the
not
show
that
later on,
strong. It's not that strong.
well, okay, the people who do believe it, which is
Okay.
other 75 million who do
A
believe
lot
it.
of people believe in UFOs, and that's a strong narrative too.
Yeah, come on, it's not even comparable, and you know that.
No. It is
seriously.
comparable. It is comparable because just believing in a narrative does not give the narrative strength when so many people don't believe in the narrative. Right?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree and say that this is perpetuated so strongly. And again, even later in the show, somebody challenged him directly, saying, how did you come up with that? And Spicer defended him too.
Yeah. I
defended
heard him
because-
say that yesterday, and I just, it didn't even faze me because that's what they believe. And how they got there, you're correct. How they got there is by watching the same brainwashing channel telling them this thing over and over again. It doesn't make it so, but you're correct. This guy went and looked it up, which is odd for them to do that. So credibility for him, Eric. You're right.
Right. And it also needs to be out there that people can see that there's a lie that's being pushed. And even Halperin talked about how they're still using weasel words to imply that it happened.
Right.
They
See,
say things like,
if that
such
house
happened.
of cards begins to crumble, it crumbles all the way back to the electors and
Yes.
the stolen 2020. They cannot allow this. It's not about the cops who didn't die. It's about any attack on
Yes.
their narrative is what I mean, because it goes all the way back to them being involved in a coup d'etat. And
Of
that's
course,
that's why you have to fight the battle up front with those weeping cops. That weeping cop, those guys have to be indicted. These people have to be indicted. The MAGA people have to yell their heads off. This cannot, Dershowitz, and I was watching, what's her name? The Scientology newscaster. I always forget her name. It's been around for years on Newsmax.
Greta Van Susteren.
Greta Van Susteren. I remember because she's a Scientologist.
I didn't know that.
And the people don't realize that. Greta Van Susteren and Dershowitz, she had Dershowitz on, saying we have to bury the hatchet for the good of the country. Don't go after anyone. Be a bigger man. Don't prosecute anybody. The whole interview is Greta Van Susteren and Dershowitz yesterday talking about on her show how Trump has to not divide the country even further. Let it go and be a big man for all the different situations that happen. So there is that movement to do nothing.
Right. Well, I like addressing every single fact point along the way because it is, and I agree with you. It is incredibly important for breaking down a narrative. I don't know. I think I've talked about Daryl Davis 100 times. He is a guy who collects Klan robes, and the way he does it is he's a black guy, and he goes and becomes friends with Klan members, active Klan members, Imperial Wizards, all these guys. And the first break in their narrative is they don't like black people, except for him. Well, as soon as you crack one thing, it starts to unravel everything. So I think it's good to challenge every single point.
Well, let's say you indict these people in D.C. They walk. Now what?
I don't know. I mean,
right. You don't know, do you? Neither do I. Now, what,
I
so
mean,
what do you do?
odds are the majority are going to walk.
Okay, well, what do you do about that? Got to go after the judges first. You got to go after the judges.
We go after all of them, and let's say they do walk. Okay, then
So what's the point?
the point is that you at least have a counterpoint. You've got the January 6 people are pardoned. The other people went after them. Everybody's walking free. Then we can move on. But at least people are charged on both sides. So I could see that argument. It's never going to be completely fair. You're never going to completely get it back. But there is a sunk cost fallacy aspect. So are you saying don't go after them?
No, I'm saying, in other words, you have to go after them so hard. I mean, talking about change of venues for trials out of DC,
Well,
getting the. Well, no, it's not. Nobody's speaking about this. I'm trying to get pragmatic on how we actually go after them. You know what I mean? Go after those judges the ones that the guy who harassed Flynn so badly, the ones who harassed Roger Stone. Go take off some judges' heads. And Trump has talked about this. Bannon has talked about this. Go after these judges incrementally, step by step, before you simply put somebody on trial in DC and they're acquitted in 5 minutes and they go and celebrate. Don't willy-nilly do this. Have some structure to the plan. That's what I'm saying.
How about civilly? What I'm saying is that, okay, you may not be able to get them criminally. That might be a nightmare. But if you can bankrupt them, or you can bankrupt them trying to defend themselves, it's still in effect, because look what happened with Flynn. A lot of Flynn was really a financial drain. And the judges, they're not rich. And that's part of Elon Musk's master plan. Whatever people think of Elon Musk has a habit. When he goes after people, he goes scorched earth, and this is all civil, and he sues not only the organization, but he goes after the board of directors themselves personally. So that also could be an answer, because you could tie them up with lawfare. They love lawfare, right? Well, what if they're defending themselves against lawfare?
That's what Dershowitz specifically was against yesterday. Do not fight lawfare with lawfare. And Greta Van Susteren agreed with them. They had a whole discussion of not going after them with lawfare.
And I understand that, because then that's the idea that, okay, well, then now we started a trend and everybody goes back and forth with each other or at each other till the end of time. Well, okay. Here's the thing, though. If there is a legitimate case and they can be legitimately tried, then that's...
Well, they think all of these cases are legitimate. They believe Trump was convicted of 34 felonies. And we could talk about Marchand right now, because both Barnes and Viva admitted yesterday that they were wrong, that Sunday, they thought the case was going to be thrown out. I never, ever believed this case was going to be thrown out. He is going to be sentenced next week. And whatever the sentence is, it's going to be the sentence that seals his 34 convictions until and unless the United States Supreme Court, Eric, reverses this state court ruling by this guy, Marchand, who I believe will give him probation.
Okay, I talked to Nate about that and got some clarity on it, because remember we were talking, I said, I don't know about the suspended sentence and probation or whatever. Damn it, I wish I had it queued up. There is a specific term that Marchand actually even wrote that he was going to do. It's a unconditional release.
Right.
Now the unconditional is very relevant, because when you're saying probation, that is conditional. But here's the problem. Trump cannot break the law. He is the one person in America that technically cannot break the law. So you cannot put him on a conditional probation for 4 years, because the statute of limitations is sentenced. So
I understand. I wasn't speaking of probation legally. I was speaking probation in the generic sense, in the colloquial sense of probation. You're correct. There is the legal version of probation. However, what they want to do is tie this up in the appellate and Supreme Court of the state of New York for 4 years. That's where I'm going with this argument. Not about probation. It's about not allowing this case to get to the U.S. Supreme Court for 4 years. And that's what they're attempting to do. They have planned this out to the day. That's why they waited till literally minutes before he's president to do this. That's why Trump filed that emergency request yesterday, which was denied today by Marchand. They do not want to give him any runway, yeah, he lost this today because they want to give him no wiggle room to appeal this to the United States Supreme Court. They want to bottle this up because once he's president and he goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, okay, it's going to be in the appellate court of the state of New York, and it's going to be in the Supreme Court of the state of New York. They want to keep this thing, these convictions, for as long as humanly possible of his term.
Okay, well, now, and Dustin, I'm going to push on you. No, it's not to run it out till his term is up and put him in jail. He will never go to jail for this. That is essentially what is being, explained to me. It took a while to understand it. When he says you're guilty and it's unconditional, it is literally just saying it's a guilty sentence. You're a felon. There's no sentence. He's never serving time or anything else. He's just forever a felon.
Right. No, I agree with that.
It locks him in as forever a felon. That's the end game.
I agree with that. I'm just taking it to the next level. Again, Eric, this is 4D chess for them. They have sat around for years planning out every move here, and Trump is just reacting to their moves. They're going to tie this up in the New York State courts for 4 years. That's their dream. That's their dream. We'll see what happens.
Or even ideally forever, and they'll just always say that he is a felon.
That's
Donald Trump is a felon.
But
it's
at
just,
least for the
label.
at least for the 4 years while he's president.
Yeah,
that's where this is all going. This is where they're all going. This is what I surmised. Without the technical details, I surmise that they were never going to let this go because they want that conviction of a felon to be his moniker while he's president. And originally, their scheme was to block him.
Sure.
Right. And that didn't come to fruition. So this is just a label to hang on him. And it's legal and it's true and it's real until the United States Supreme Court vacates it. And everyone assumes, including Dershowitz and others, that it's going to go right to the U.S. Supreme Court and they're going to overturn it. Don't be so sure. Don't be so sure, because they could simply say, we'll deal with that when the other courts have finished on the appeal process.
Well, especially if he has no chance of ever serving any time, then it's not as critical. Right. They can push it off. And I just want people to understand, because a lot of people think that there's a sword of Damocles hanging over his head to lock him up. At one point that was true, but now he'll never be locked up. He's never going to be locked up on
well, but he hasn't been sentenced yet. So don't jump the shark on this thing. Don't jump the shark. Let the guy say what he's going to say, Eric.
Okay, if the guy does what he says he's going to do,
that's a big fucking if, because he's lied so many times, Hunley. I mean, come on.
All right. Well,
the guy is not, first of all, he's not even a full judge. By the way, he's a temporary judge. I don't know if people realize this. He's unelected. He was never confirmed as a judge. I mean, this is one of the strangest cases in New York State history, or a case that'll go down in history in presidential politics because of Marchand. I mean, it is a really, really strange situation.
Yeah. Well, it's a strange situation in all counts, because you have the defendant who is president-elect of the United States.
Right.
That in of itself is just an I mean, Trump's
but to use your idea, I would go after Marchand civilly and bankrupt him. Go after him. Take the offensive, for Christ's sakes. These Republican conservatives never seem to go on the offensive. They're always like willing to put things under the rug, move on for the good of the planet, and forget that something happened. Break this guy. I mean, go after him. Make him spend some money. He doesn't even have any money, this guy. Break him. Go on the offensive.
I agree.
Go after, what about the other judge? The nipple judge. Go after him too.
I agree. And that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, right now you have the counterpart to George Soros, who, loves going after people on Lawfare, but the template is there. Yeah. Who's Trump's buddy? Elon Musk. Who was Elon Musk's partner with PayPal? Peter Thiel. Ever heard of Hulk Hogan? Ever heard of Gawker? Oh, wait, Gawker's dead. So there is a pattern to this.
It's a good point. But speaking of Soros, he's marrying that Uma Abedin, by the way, Hunley. You want to explain this to me? I mean, her mother's runs the newspaper for the Muslim Brotherhood out of Egypt. She marries Wiener, a Jewish guy from Brooklyn who takes pictures of his wiener. He goes to jail. She's not even divorced from Wiener. And she's marrying this multi-billionaire, the son of George Soros, who shows up for the medal that his dad bought by paying for, I think, 70 at last count district attorneys in the United States. This is shocking. Absolutely shocking. She's like 50 years old. He's now the stepdad to her kid with Anthony Weiner, another Jewish guy. It just boggles the mind. I mean, she is a deep state. Uma Abedin, in case people don't know, was Hillary Clinton's assistant. She's a deep state Middle East honeypot whose specialty is to rope in these soy boy Jews with her special sauce that she has, whatever that is. And either, I mean, Weiner never had any money, but Soros definitely does.
Hey, you gotta go up the line, Mark.
She went up the line. I mean, why this guy who's the wealthiest bachelor in New York, who's worth billions, saw fit to marry a 50-year-old Middle Eastern sea hag is bizarre. And not only that, when they get divorced, which is inevitable, she will end up with billions of dollars and then be a free agent for the Palestinian Muslim Brotherhood cause, which is her mother's dream.
Well, okay. Let's look at this for a second. You've got Weiner, who wasn't necessarily interested in her. He preferred teenagers and Snapchat or whatever, right?
Yep.
Well, you know, we've thrown around the term beard. Maybe it's something like that. You know,
I wouldn't be surprised.
How's it going for George Clooney?
What is it for Soros? I mean, what is it for Soros? I mean, do they have him blackmailed? Is this the most powerful kid on the earth? I mean, he shows up yesterday to get the medal for his dad.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, the Clinton family, the Clinton Foundation, you know, they haven't given up all their power. They haven't given up, their connections. So, I don't know. I think why not?
Why not? It's just so much. It is similar to the Clooney marriage, the Soros thing. But Clooney's got a reputation and an image to uphold. Soros. If he's being intimidated by Uma Abedin, I mean, that's interesting. But
it's just right there to Hillary. I mean, you know, it's just,
no, you're correct. I mean, she's the agent for Hillary, and still has her connections to Hillary Clinton. But
it's so deep connections. I mean, her and Hillary go back decades.
Yeah,
so thick they might as well be sisters.
Yep.
I mean, it's spooky. But yeah. I mean, it's dark. Evil's got to reproduce, Mark.
He's not reproducing with her at 50.
Well, that's true, but she already has her little brain dead.
She's got her wiener boy that she said he's going to be the stepdad of. I mean, she's not even divorced from Weiner, and they're not even married yet.
Yep. I don't know. Yeah, you did bring up the awards. That's a fabulous subject. Of course, I was screaming at my phone on Sunday and I know it's frustrating when you're military, you know something, but they kept calling the Medal of Freedom the Medal of Honor.
Oh yeah, it's just a slip of the tongue. It's just.
I know, but it's kind of a big slip.
The guy's from another country, Eric. Cut him some slack. Come on.
Oh, but anyway, I just want to point that out. Like I said, I still love them both. All that
piling on, technical foul. Number 23, Eric Hunley.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but anyway, it is the Medal of Freedom, the highest award that can be given to a civilian in the United States. And well, George Soros, and what a coincidence, Mark, you have Hillary Clinton right there. So
shocking.
It goes right together here.
Shocking. Really is. I don't know. Denzel Washington worked his way in there also. I had to watch the Golden Globes the other night, so you didn't have to, Eric.
Well, okay. You seem to really like Nikki Glaser. I was kind of like, okay.
Again, the entire standard of the earth of comedy is not judged by Ricky Gervais. You got to get your minds around this, people. The number one guy doesn't mean that nobody else can be an effective comic. Comparing her to Ricky Gervais is not what I was doing. I was shocked and surprised how unwoke she was, how she roasted these people. The jokes were flawless. She had no teleprompter. She was a total pro. And the only thing worth watching in the entire show was her. And I never saw her before in my life, so I was impressed.
Well, she hung out with Tony Hinchcliffe.
No, but I'm saying I've never heard of her before. So to me, it was like a breath of fresh air. Was she Ricky Gervais? Of course not. Nobody is. But and female comics traditionally have a tougher time navigating that thin line between class and comedy and gender. She did it really smoothly. Silverman used to be able to do it, and that's her model, is what she said, was Sarah Silverman. But anyway, the point of the matter was, it was just a chick fest of awards of shows I'd never heard of. It was just, I mean, the whole thing was such a mess. They were knocking over the microphone. They were heckling each other. It was just crazy. The whole thing was just so crazy. The only professional thing in there was Nikki Glaser. And I went, oh, this. And then when she gets nominated for Comedian of the Year, she loses to a Chinese chick named Nikki Wong. And I went, oh, the fate of this poor girl. She can't even win on the night that she's actually hosting the show. Some random chick from San Francisco comes up and wins the award for Comedian of the Year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really. You're right. You watched it, so I didn't have to. I just watched the cutout of her bit. I don't care about the Golden Globes. I don't even know.
Well, the culture of the Golden Globes is downstream from the culture of the Oscars.
Yeah, downstream. Yeah, it makes me think of a yellow stream. But anyway, they're both. I don't know what's worse. The Golden Globes is bad. It's probably slightly better than the Oscars. It seems like the movies up at the Oscars.
The reason the Golden Globes is important is because they were suspended from NBC for a year, which people don't remember. I was bringing this up last night. Right. Nobody remembers this because they didn't have any black journalists among the 60 journalists worldwide. There was only 60 who voted, who were entertainment journalists, and somebody hipped them to the fact that none of the 60 were black. And they said, well, what are we supposed to do? It's just a random thing. We've been doing this, and most of them are older. They've been doing this for 40 years. They have relationships with the talent. Let me just finish. And they work for Variety, and they work for British papers, whatever they do. So these are the voters of the Golden Globes. So they said, well, we're going to suspend your show for in perpetuity from being on TV. And they went, what? The next thing you know, the entire show was sold to Dick Clark Productions, kind of like this TikTok deal. And they increased the amount of voters from 60 to 300 and made it a rule that 10% of them have to be African American. And miraculously, they were back on NBC. That's why it's of interest to me, the story, not these chicks in these movies. The political stuff that they did to this Golden Globes was so in public eye that you saw stuff that you never get to see before. Normally, this stuff would be behind the scenes. The Golden Globes was kicked off of TV for a year until they were shaken down to carry out this woke agenda, and that's why it's important.
Okay. I mean, I personally
not the awards themselves.
Yeah, I feel like it's all dying anyway. We're heading there quickly. But cool. I mean, enjoy. It's well,
it's weird because it used to be, I think, much later, and now it was moments after New Year's that it's broadcast, and the main films that are the ones they're promoting are in December, so nobody got to see them. They didn't win any awards, and they were shooting themselves in the foot once again, because now the Oscars are way in March, and this thing was on January 5th. Anyway, it's just very interesting how they fuck everything up.
Well, they're just happy to be around. I mean, and a couple of the lines, she did have a decent line about the, what was it? The assassin thing when she said, the world-class assassin nobody can find because he's on Peacock.
She had a couple of great lines about Peacock that were very funny. Very funny. It was a smooth, professional performance, which is rare. Right.
And then for those who are watching on CBS, welcome. Those on Paramount Plus, yours. Trial ends in 6 days.
That was funny. That was very funny.
And those are good. That is kind of like a late night humor, Jay Leno style.
I would love to see her replace one of those guys on late night TV. Is where I was going with this whole story, because they are looking around at different replacements. I would vote for this Nikki Glaser in a heartbeat to have her as a host. and a Joan Rivers kind of Sarah Silverman model, on late night TV, because chick's apparently earned it. She's apparently, I looked her up. She's been around doing these roasts for years. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think she's in with Jeff Ross, Tony
Yeah,
Hinchcliffe.
I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But very smooth, very polished, very smooth performance.
All right. Well, I'm hoping that on the late night, it's like if they have any left. I mean, let's just get rid of all of them. And
well, a lot of
Tonight
times
Show
the way,
had one show. There was a Tonight Show.
There's different networks, but even ABC didn't have one for many years until they went, they ended up having Dick Cavett, I think. But
Kimmel, I think was there.
No, but I'm saying before, there was a time when ABC did not have a late night host. ABC is a network.
Right, yeah. CBS didn't either until the war with Leno and Letterman.
Right.
And then that split and became two.
Yeah.
And then what was it, in 2000 or whatever? Then Kimmel got picked up for ABC, and now we have.
The
everyone.
way to do it is to have them go on vacation, have a substitute host, and then they don't come back.
Oh, I'd like that.
Yeah, that would be a smooth way to do it.
Or they just go on vacation and.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Trump was talking about a subject that we've discussed before again in Mar-a-Lago.
And
okay.
We don't have enough electricity, and then we have AI where we need more, and he wants everybody to have an electric heater instead of a gas heater. Gas heater is much less expensive. The heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have
heard of an itch?
They don't itch.
That was a weird one.
That's what they want you to have. They don't want.
Well,
you
he
to
knows
have
because he
where-
puts these in his building, so he must know.
I guess, but I've never heard of an electric heater itching. But Trump has a little bit of a germaphobe. He
is. All right. What other stories you got besides Trump's?
Well, I was just talking about that. Here is a story, literally.
Okay.
Because we're talking about Biden and them are banning gas stoves, gas heaters, gas everything. So at least we have Trump completely on the other side, hopefully undoing all of that. Because
I think he will. I think he will.
Okay, people are saying forced air is dry. The problem with the forced air is dry argument is I have forced air and it's gas. So you can have forced air with gas or electricity, and it's going to be dry. It just dries out the air. Let me see. What else do we have? We've got multiple stories. Okay, we've got here. This is uplifting.
Okay.
Very famously, Netflix paid a shit ton of money to Harry and Meghan for just basically pissed it away along with Spotify. To their credit, I think that Amazon didn't necessarily overpay for the Melania film. A lot of people are shocked. I think it's $40 million, but somebody pointed out in this, how often do you hear from Melania? She's like a complete mystery, and she's not overexposed. So I think there is some investment value there. Your thoughts? You're in Hollywood.
My thoughts in Hollywood, that's not even the main part of the story. The main part of the story is the director of the film. Director of the film is a very famous guy, which is not being covered by anyone, who was Me Too, named Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner had a $600 billion deal with Warner Brothers that was taken away when he was accused of doing stuff with Olivia Munn, who apparently made up some cock and bull story and destroyed Brett Ratner's career. This is the first thing Brett Ratner has done since he was Me Too'd by Olivia Munn. And I'm rooting for Brett Ratner. I know his mother from back in New York. His grandfather, I forget his first name, also named Ratner, invented Decon Rat Killer. Decon the spray?
And his name's Ratner? You can't make this stuff up.
Yes. But that's their legal name is Ratner. It's got nothing to do with Decon. But Brett Ratner has made Hollywood a lot of money. And I mean a lot of money. He also had a lot of parties where a lot of stuff went on in Hollywood at these parties, and not the level of Diddy parties. Nothing's the level of a Diddy party. But there were a lot of girls who had the knives out for Brett Ratner, and Olivia Munn took him down. And this is his first foray back into the cinematic universe. And the money is really to pay for the book. which is a bestseller, New York Times bestseller. It's not the budget of the film, and she's not getting the money because she's listed as an executive producer. Where it's going, I assume Brett Ratner is going to get $5 million off the top. But yeah, I'd love to see this thing and see her whole backstory.
So is he kind of like, I always forget his name, the one who was a writing partner of Seth Rogen?
I don't know who that is, but you're asking about Brett Ratner?
Like you said that he was known for his parties and stuff. I didn't know if
Oh,
he was
yeah,
kind of a
Ratner-
bad boy, like
yeah. Oh, yeah.
James Franco. Sorry, I couldn't remember James Franco.
Oh,
if he was like kind of in that.
Just a much smaller actor. It was a minuscule actor compared to Brett Ratner. I mean, Ratner, the Rush Hour franchise, Warner Brothers deals. Ratner was a director producer with mega deals. I mean, he was huge, Eric, huge, and that was all taken away because of Olivia Munn. So this hopefully will restore Brett Ratner back to cinematic society, but who knows? I mean, this may be more trouble for him. But either way, I can't wait to see the film.
Okay, and there's a new scandal going right now. I don't follow them that well, but Blake Lively, I guess, has a thing going with some dude.
Blake Lively is
the latest Me Too.
It's really about Blake Lively's feud with some actor director and her sex scenes with him. So they're suing each other to death. It's very, very strange what's happening with this particular Blake Lively thing, because a lot of people close to me say it's got nothing to do with her, and it's about her very, very protective husband who controls her, and that's Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds got upset that this director was touching her inappropriately or whatever it was, and he decided to go after this guy. And Ryan Reynolds makes a lot of money for Hollywood, 10 times more than she makes for Hollywood. And he's a very
not only Hollywood, dude. Aviation Gin. He has he has half of a football club and England.
But that's
Mint
not
Mobile. No, I'm just saying he's a billionaire. He's big.
Understandably so. But I'm saying before this even happened, Ryan Reynolds has been known for being a psycho controller of this woman. This complete control of her life, and now it's led to this. And the guy who's being hit with this is a small fry actor turned director who didn't deserve this.
Yeah, it seems like that's what I was talking about. It seems like he's really getting run over, twisted up in the wheel.
Yep. But it's because of Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, interesting. All right, this is not Ryan Reynolds, it's something else, but you sent it to me about Emma Gervais's father and the trafficking issue. We can't, we got to be careful on language.
There's very few details, so we don't know, but apparently she met somebody online, and then she went outside, got in a car. The guy in the car took her to a boat. This is in Patchogue. The boat was in West Islip. This is all near Amityville, where I went to school. But the girl, who was 14, went in a car and then was taken to this boat. The boat was just docked. The boat didn't go anywhere. She lived on the boat in the harbor with this guy until her father got wind of it from somebody at the yacht club, who told her that there was this girl, told him there was this girl on the boat. They had put out flyers and everything else. Missing girl. She'd run away before. And then the father went and rescued her. And when I saw a photo of the father, I thought it was the criminal. This is her dad. And nobody seems to think this is unusual. You could show a picture of the girl, and there's a picture of her with her mother and father. I don't know if you saw that, but this is her dad who rescued her, Eric. And nobody in the articles, the multiple articles I've read, has even mentioned his face. And
because it's been normalized, which is so
that's
weird.
What somebody in my world said yesterday, that it's me who finds this unusual. And I said, as a journalist, I have to put in a line about his face. This is her. She's 14, Gervaisi, and she was rescued by her dad. That's her there. But there's a picture of him with his wife and her. And I thought, this is a suburban upscale town. I just can't. I know this town. I was raised in the town next to it. This is in Patchogue, Long Island. The fact that this guy looks like this in the suburbs, it's shocking to me. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not that advanced. But
no, it's weird to me too. I'm just
Eric,
trying
am
to get
I
used to it.
crazy? Explain this to me.
We're old.
Okay, but
Yeah,
so
that's
is he. So is he. He's like 50, bro.
No, I agree. I mean, look, when I was coming up, this would be somebody who just got out of prison. I mean,
that's why I thought he was the kidnapper.
But I do know, and I've seen it over and over and over now, that it's happening. And when, this is where it really flipped for me, and maybe because it's where I live.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, here in Hampton Roads, maybe it's a military influence. I don't know what it is, but I've always been a little like, women with tattoos is odd. And here it's like, women don't only have tattoos, they have full sleeves. It's gotten on their face. And I always thought that the face was sort of a last holdout. Like, people would get tatted up on their arms or neck, whatever. But the face, it was like, it'd be one, but no, it's
okay. I agree. And second of all, it's rarely even seen in Hollywood, which is where I live, and there's more tattoos here than anywhere on the planet Earth, probably. But as a journalist, I would have to say, what's with the face, bro? What's the deal? You know what I mean? And address it in the article. Simply say, whatever you want to say, the former convict father who got these prison tattoos in prison now works at IBM, blah, 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 or owns his own gas station or whatever it is. But I can't just put his picture in the article and not reference it as if nobody notices. Every person who read the article said, what's with the guy's face?
Well, but this is the world we're living in, where you're not supposed to say, wow, look at him with the beard and the dress. That's totally normal. That's obviously a beautiful, stunning woman. I mean, it's kind of all of the same that we're lying. And
I'm not lying. I'm talking my head off about it. I'm sorry. And I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying you can't just say it, not say anything about it, and make it not part of the story. Mm-hmm. You know, if the criminal ends up being a three-piece suited guy with short hair, and this is the father, that's a story to me. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's a human interest story.
Well, that's like the old joke. How many times have you seen this in a movie where, like True Believer with Robert Downey Jr., James Woods, two great actors, they're sitting in the courtroom, and James Woods is sitting there at the table, and Downey Jr. like pulls on his sleeve saying, "Hey, don't worry, this guy's the best. He's going to get you off." And the judge goes, "Are you ready to talk, Mr. Such and Such?" And James Woods stands up as a lawyer. It's like, it's kind of that type of a scenario, right?
Yeah.
Well,
it's a weird story because she's in the hospital, and there's stuff that happened to her, according to the father, that we don't know about. There's more to this story than meets the eye. But the thing that did meet my eye was his face. And I just wanted to show you that for the article.
Fair enough. Now, this is also New York. I want to run it by you because the defense is being put forth.
What's the deal? Was he in a
this,
blackout or something? Or
that's his claim, is that he was in a complete blackout drunk.
Could be.
Okay, but I'm saying lock his ass up till the end of time anyway.
Oh, yeah. Blackout. Again, blackouts do not get you out of a crime. I mean, I knew a guy who was on death row in Sing Sing who killed a man in a bar fight. They were both in a blackout. The guy who died hit his head. He punched him, hit his head, died. He was sentenced to the electric chair in Sing Sing. He was later paroled, which is how I knew the guy. But he didn't remember doing it, but he still got convicted and sent to the electric chair. The courts don't allow blackouts as an excuse to, as a defense.
Well, isn't that Sirhan's defense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not defense, but statement, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it led to his parole because he was in a blackout. As I said in the parole hearing, I said he acknowledged, and the court has acknowledged, that he was in a blackout from having, I think, 6 daiquiris in a row on a hot night for a little guy who didn't drink. He, for whatever reason, he downed 5 or 6. It was an open bar.
Tom Collins comes to mind.
Tom Collins, whatever is in a Tom Collins. Gin and
something
daiquiri crap. So he downed 5 or 6 of those at rapid fire, And I don't use that as a gun term, but as a drinking term.
Well, I'm
And
6'2", and that would mess me up.
right, and he's 5'2", and it did mess him up. And part of the reason he couldn't and continued to say, I can't have remorse for something I don't remember, the parole board said repeatedly, then we can't give you parole. So it was this catch-22 until I brought up to the judge or the panel that what happens with the suburban woman who's in a blackout who kills people in a car crash. And then they went
in New York on a highway with
in
a
New York,
different last name.
and it does happen. In other words, you can't have remorse for something you didn't remember, and you still at some point deserve parole. And after 50 some odd years of not remembering, he could falsely say, yes, I remember and I have remorse, and have gotten out probably a long time ago.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's what you're saying with this guy.
I just wanted to follow up on, because the blackout, we have talked about drug issues, and different things. And
well, he's apparently a notorious alcoholic, according to everywhere, everywhere he lived.
Not only alcoholic, he liked Molly's or whatever it was. He supposedly he was going out that day to get drunk and get whatever he was in.
I think he was into like K2 and stuff, or
that might have been a K2 or
K2,
some edibles. Yeah, the same thing I think as the guy that perished after Daniel Penny. I think it was
Yep. The question is, what do you do with them? I mean, they're roaming the streets like zombies. There's a guy missing. There's a guy on the lam right now who's been knifing people all through the city with a giant butcher knife. He's got 52 arrests, and they're looking for this guy. He stabbed a bunch of people on the train yesterday.
Well, I got an idea. How about next one? You don't let him out. You're like, it's like, how do you collect 52 arrests? Somewhere along those 52, maybe a little time. Maybe a little time behind bars.
But the defense is that if you're mentally insane, they don't have the treatment facilities in the jail to deal with that medically. So I see the other side to it too.
But if it is a drug issue, as you've brought up multiple times, Robert Downey Jr. said he would have died if he didn't get prison. So even holding them in there, maybe they could get cleaned up enough.
Except they don't have the facility to deal with mental illness in there. They don't have the medical. It's in other words, you need a medical facility, not just a detox. I'm talking about schizophrenia and the other. Putting them in there with everyone else, they're just going to be victims. It's just really cruel and unusual punishment to put them in there. What we need is mental asylums. We need mental asylums. Yeah.
Yes. No. Bring back the state hospitals, because I'm just saying. So they'll be victims if they're in there. Instead, we'll have them outside where all of us can be victims. That doesn't help.
No, I agree. You have to reinstitute and run them, smoothly and run them properly and cleanly. You have to have state mental institutions. I'm sorry. I don't. That's the answer. It is the answer.
I totally agree. Even if it's and there's different levels. There are people who have to report in and get their medication under supervision, but they're sort of out, sort of in. There are different levels. But I mean. Oof. All right. Well, speaking of New York, a little bit more. Do you like street food?
Oh no, not this. Oh no, Hunley, stop.
Yeah. Meat's expensive, Mark. He's just got a budget.
These kids, this is in Queens, by the way. This is some Muslim guy who's got halal food, and he's capturing pigeons and apparently serving them. These kids, regular kids from Queens, went up and filmed him yesterday while he was in the truck, and they were grilling him about this, and he was grilling. He denied the whole thing, and these kids were having a field day filming him for TikTok or whatever they were doing. But people have suspected this for years. They've been accused of doing it for years. They've been seen doing it for years. Somebody had the presence of mind to finally film it. And I don't know what the penalty is for catching a New York City pigeon and serving it to New York City residents. But that's apparently what's going on.
Yeah, which is oof.
The only thing I could think of was my Uncle Louis, who used to have Franks and Beans on the menu for Tuesdays at Shelley's Coffee Shop on 42nd Street. And this guy with a soubrette cart who looked kind of like that guy would pull up in front of his restaurant with the cart and sell soubrette hot dogs. So Louis went out on a couple of weeks in a row and said, look, bro, I'm embittered that you're even selling in front of my restaurant. I'm not happy about that. But at least don't be here on Tuesdays when I've got Franks and Beans as a special on the menu. And the guy was like, go fuck yourself. Fuck you. Anyway, so he showed up for like the 5th time in a row. And Louis went out and flipped over his entire soubrette cart. And the hot dogs were running down the stream alongside the curb. And he was scooping them back up and putting them back into the cart. They were all swimming down along the curb in the water from the soubrette cart. And the guy never came back. But yeah, it's a constant battle between these carts and real restaurants that are paying real taxes, real money. When you pull up in front of a restaurant with that and start catching pigeons, holy crap.
Yep. Now I'm going to go on the flip side of this. I've seen this video before, but it touched me personally because of my time in Cuba, taking care of migrants. I don't think people understand exactly what we have and what life can be if we follow our communist track, because there's not many places, more pure in terms of communist than Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just watch this for a minute. This is a Cuban, a migrant who is in Costco for the first time.
Wow.
Cierra los ojos. Cierra los ojos.
Yo me puedo llevar eso para la casa.
Nadie te va a preguntar de dónde lo conseguí. Nadie va. Tú solo. Uno.
I can exercise with this.
That's funny.
Yeah, but it's real.
I was in the Dominican Republic, and they were apples. Yeah. Wow. We take it for granted.
And this is what I wanted to show. I mean, this is, I think.
Yeah. I'm an alien from another planet.
Yeah.
Well, if you leave the door open, you wonder why everybody would come in here, Eric.
That's true.
I was in the Dominican Republic, and they happened to be having elections, presidential elections, while I was there, and they had the military out in the street. But particularly bizarre was soldiers in the meat department of the supermarket guarding their limited amount of meat in Santo Domingo with machine guns. And I thought that was unusual. And I tried to talk to these guys going like, what's going on, bro? And they said simply elections. Like, what am I, crazy? It's election time. They were in the streets with anti-aircraft guns. I guess they must have had a bunch of those. I don't know who they were shooting at. And then with, submachine guns in the supermarket itself.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Also, I mean, the reactions that these guys, that he had, is I was feeding these migrants. Okay, this is why it touches me personally. I hear about this stuff and hear about this stuff, and to give you an idea of how meat is so sacred there, it's rare. That's why he's just dying. He's like, oh my God, that's enough meat to feed them for a year. What he held up would feed like a family of 5 for a year and a half, 2 years. It's more meat than they could ever imagine. When I was caring for them one time, all of a sudden, all these Cubans, because they're kind of working with this one, they just manically run by, and there's a blur. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And it was a banana rat. And they saw the banana rat, and they were chasing it down because that was something that is sacred and rare. The meat is so hard to get there that the opportunity of chasing down a banana rat like that is something that would feed their family.
Wow.
So I just, I see that. And
but I like the romantic idea of communism, Eric.
Yes,
I like the romantic idea of Che Guevara in a T-shirt with a beret. Can I have that type of communism? Where is that in the world?
Oh yeah, that is the Cuba communism. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Exactly. You know what? I can't show the video, unfortunately. This is a crazy ass story. I know. I'm glad. Sometimes you get annoyed with me, and it's probably good that we're in separate locations when we podcast, because podcasting now officially is a very dangerous profession in certain companies.
This one, the reaction of the guy on the left, who's the host, is better than the guy who discharged his weapon in his pocket. Can you play this or no? You can't.
I don't. You don't really, because it's a gun and it's violence. I know it's nothing, but
there's nothing to visually see, because you don't see the gun or the. Somebody showed later that his leg was bleeding.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think he was stoned out of his mind.
Wow. What else is new? But the guy reaches in to get something else, at a lighter, I think, to smoke his blunt, and his gun goes off in his pocket and shoots him in the leg. And he doesn't even really flinch that much. He just goes, "Oh man!"
It's kind of like, what was that?
Right. And then the other guy, the guy with the light blue hat, just goes crazy, laughing his ass off.
And then continues the show.
Yeah, it continues the show.
This is like a normal day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is what is it? Tuesday in Compton or something? I don't know what the hell it is.
There's a lot of people who've been shot. They just keep going.
Oh my God. That was mind blowing. Anyway, he was on something. Dude.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have that announcement? This is a follow-up with another story we did. Everybody remembers the CEO of Enron.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, he has something new. Today, we launched the Enron egg. The first. Now, the funny part of this, we were talking about the nuclear devices, you and I, offline with Oliver Sohn, but he's making this into a meme. The world's first micronuclear reactor made to power your home.
Right.
Now, it's kind of funny because I didn't realize it was the Enron guy at first, but I was like, oh, it's CES time. So right now, all the new advancements are coming out, electronics, and I was like, it's possible. We talked about they do have smaller reactors that are trying to figure out how to do it. The problem with this is it's 10 years and it's too big. So it's like in my mind there, and I was like, oh, the egg. Okay, that's funny. So he's out there memeing along, continuing. Nuclear, you can trust. Stand sold separately.
Wow. That's brilliant. Oh, he was being interviewed by Taylor Lorenz last week.
Yes.
That's what Eric and I were showing. And she was completely taken in by this guy about the Enron scandal, and that these guys went to prison and it's still a great company and blah, blah, blah. She was appalled. And now he's followed up with this nuclear you can trust. I mean, this guy's on a roll.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I love it.
Great story. Great story.
I hope he keeps going. I hope he does. And keep releasing. I need material. Let me see. Rex Rins is a new member.
What took you so long, Rex Rins?
Hey, happy to have you now. And actually, you know what? I think there are new people who are watching. And if you can, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat if you're new to the show. And what do you think? We love seeing new faces coming around. And you never know. While you're here, while you're looking, you've been here watching for hour 45 minutes.
Don't do it, homies. Don't do it.
Almost.
Don't do it, Eric.
It's going to happen. There it went.
Oh, Huntley pushed the red button. Oh my God.
We're within 100 of 119,000 mark. You never know what could happen.
Give it up. They're laughing at you at YouTube. They're rolling on the floor, biting their own penises every time you do that.
I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah, no, there's nowhere to go. I mean, I have a feeling that there are a bunch of kids at YouTube who just, toy with our subscription numbers and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, let me get a super chat to get that visual out of my head now.
Yeah, go just take that thing down. I can't take it anymore.
Pamela Clifton, happy Tuesday, guys. I love the thumbnail. I watched the certification yesterday and it was glorious.
Yeah,
I
she's
clapped
right.
too, especially when it came to Texas with our 40 electoral votes.
Very nice. Eric explained to me yesterday that subscription numbers may be not as important as I originally thought. Eric was explaining the algorithm to me yesterday.
Right, and I should qualify that. If you're enjoying the show and you're going to watch it again, please subscribe. If you hate our guts, don't. Don't. Because it helps us more if you subscribe and watch. The views are very, very important. We really appreciate you watching and sharing with anybody and everybody. Daniel Friedrichs. Will Trump attend the sentencing in person on Friday?
No, he said video.
Okay.
Yeah, he already said that this morning.
Yeah, I didn't know which way he would go.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. He's in Mar-a-Lago. He's got to fly up there again for this one thing.
Speaking of Mar-a-Lago, you know who was in Mar-a-Lago over the weekend?
Yeah, Viva.
Yeah.
The whole thing was, I was watching it anyway when that happened.
And you're like,
I couldn't believe what I was watching.
It's like, wait, that's
First
our
of all,
Viva.
I couldn't believe that Viva was the moderator of this prestigious panel. I mean, that was shocking by itself, which had Alan Dershowitz. It had General Flynn.
Peter Navarro.
Peter Navarro was there. And then a guy,
Eastman.
Eastman was there, who was talking about his documentary, which they were screening. Eastman was the lawyer for Trump in the Georgia case, who they attempted to incarcerate and disbar for merely giving him advice. He's also a constitutional professor. Dershowitz made a speech where he said, don't go after these people. Again, with why I should listen to Alan Dershowitz after 4 years of Alan Dershowitz and him staying with the Democratic Party. I'm not going to get my political advice from Alan Dershowitz, but nevertheless, a revered constitutional lawyer.
Sure.
But the moderator was Viva, and Viva, out of the corner of his eye, notices a strange man, standing ominously by himself in the back of the room.
It's his house.
It's his house. He wandered downstairs to make a sandwich, and all of a sudden, all these people in there waiting for a screening of a documentary. I guess he figured he'd listen to the panel for a while.
Yeah, apparently they did tell David while he was up there, kind of on the side, saying, "Hey, he wants to get a few words in," and David interrupted proceedings to say, "Hey, this is a client of yours who might have something to say."
Oh, right.
What I love is as soon as he did that, man, they were on pitch for the music. It was like all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. Lee Greenwood starts playing the second he says that. Proud to be an American, and then Trump goes down. Now, I guess there was some confusion that David might have jumped the gun because Secret Service had to scramble.
Do you have the video, or?
I don't have it on hand.
Okay.
I'd have to find it. But
right.
I figured everybody go look at Viva Fry on X. I know he posted it there.
Yeah.
It's great. So we're one step
He's
removed.
later in the evening. He's sitting across the aisle, a few rows back from him, secretly filming him.
Mm-hmm.
He just couldn't stop himself.
Well, if you've been around Viva's always filming, so it's an attachment. It's just normal. Let me see. Ricada Law for President. Okay.
That's the guy's name?
Yeah, that's a username on Rumble Rant.
That's
MTG already introduced legislation to change the name of the Gulf.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay.
Let's do this. Do you have to do that for Mount McKinley too?
No, I don't. No, I think you can just do that because, it is an American property. The other, that's international. It's just acknowledged. It's kind of funny. Amdrum 12 says, where are all the drones with the Rumble Rant?
Okay, well, I'll say, because our special drone correspondent, Al Gonzalez, has told me that, and we showed the thing from Greg Kelly last week, that they have not gone away. What's gone away is the media coverage of the drones. That's what's gone away. Al is telling me there's still plenty of drones for everybody along the Jersey coast.
And by the way, bringing it back to Viva, I guess he's going to inject in the show. He has shown that you can use a drone to fish.
Fishing drones, yeah.
Fishing drones, absolutely. He got. Especially, I think he got fined from Canada for doing it.
Oh boy.
Because of course, Amdrum 12 said, "How long before Viva cuts his hair?" He said he's not. I do. It took me a minute to remember because he said, "I'm not cutting my hair." After Trudeau is like, that's right. He said, "I will grow my hair out as long as Trudeau is."
I didn't know that. Well, he's got till the summer by my ticking clock.
I don't think he's going to do it because now that's his image.
It'll grow back.
It's a look. Anyway, Sean Lucan gifted 20 Americans Untold Story memberships. Thank you.
I
very
said on
much.
Twitter that Viva was so excited about Trump, he grew a foot.
That's funny. Martha Weeb is a new member, or Weib. Diffuse 56, new name, gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships. Thank you very much. And also gave us a super chat and asked, hey, if the judge sentenced him to community service, would being president count? Trump laugh. Yeah.
That would be funny.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. Jeffrey Jordan, just imagine if they worked half as hard for the American people as they do for themselves. J6 was all planned because they stole the election. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the planning has gone to a level that I did not realize before this week, how deep the planning actually went, including preventing the challenge of the electoral vote count. So there's a whole new level to this thing that I didn't even know about.
True.
Yeah.
I like this super chat. This is pretty good. Trump needs to troll the libs. Day 1, wrap the Medal of Freedom around Alex Jones' neck. Day 2, cut Denmark a check and rename Greenland either Orange Land or Trumpsylvania.
Trumpsylvania, that's funny. That's hysterical.
There.
Trumpsylvania.
I love it.
Wow.
I was talking to Leslie about that earlier, my wife. I was like, people don't understand. I mean, that is so Trumpian to buy Greenland. It would be the first purchase since Eisenhower. And it's big, it's huge. I mean, technically, Greenland
it's
is
like
the largest.
The Louisiana Purchase comes to mind, Eric, right? From
right,
France.
but also it's a distinct thing. Greenland is the largest island in the world. It is so big, it's a question whether it's a continent in of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, think about it. Every time people reference Greenland, it's the biggest, and Trump buys it. It just goes with his.
And you're saying he paints it orange.
Well, why not? I like that. Hey, why not?
Well, he could put a Trump Tower there.
It's not like it's green.
No. I'm saying there's so much he could do there to play around with for his kids, not him. I'm sure he's done developing, but the kids can develop hotels there, and it's like a giant erector set island. I mean, you could build things there till the cows come home, and have fun with it, and make it a tourist destination. I mean, it's literally buying this large landmass that's undeveloped.
Did you catch two-way earlier or no? Because Spicer was talking about it a little bit.
I didn't see today's. I saw yesterday.
Okay, that's cool. Anyway, Spicer was talking about it. I did not know. I guess he didn't know either, even when he was working with Trump. He talked to other people in the administration. Apparently, in 2018, 19, or whatever, they got much farther along in buying it than people know. That it really was.
Well, you're right. Happening. He probably didn't want to report a failure. You know what I mean? That he didn't succeed. So why go into detail of something that didn't happen? That makes sense.
Yeah, I did not know though that.
I didn't know that.
So that's some interesting information. So it's like, no, apparently they were almost.
Well, he could pick up the negotiation where he left off.
Exactly.
You wanted X amount. I want Y amount. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll provide this defense and that defense. I mean, a lot of it's strategic. It's like,
hey, we could build all kinds of things for them for free.
Well, in exchange for the island. You'll be our buddies, our little brother. We'll take care of you. Don't worry. We'll keep you safe. Whatever.
I can't wait to go back to Copenhagen and celebrate. That's all I could tell you.
Yes. Well, we need to have a meetup over there.
Oh, dude, that's the first place I would go. There's a day, I think it might be Juneteenth or June 20th or something. It's daylight all day, and they come out and go crazy for one whole day. That's the day to be there.
God, speaking of daylight all day, on my channel, I did a body language with Gavin. He reached out to me and said, hey, did you hear about these guys who went to Antarctica? Well, there was a thing that went down where some flat earthers were challenged, saying, hey, if we prove to you that in Antarctica there's a 24-hour sun, will you agree that the flat map model that you have doesn't work with the 24-hour sun? They said yes. So they flew 4 flat earthers down to Antarctica to prove it. And we were doing analysis on one of the flat earthers who admitted that, yes, it is a 24-hour sun. I have never seen more comments. it was like there was a bat signal for flat Earth that went
Oh,
out.
wow.
And it's been very,
How
very
much time do
interesting.
they get like this?
Well, I don't know, but it costs $30,000 to fly him down there, apparently. So, I mean, it's
Wow.
a pretty big investment to prove that. And then one of the individuals reached out to me separately, so I may be talking to them. But interesting
So
story.
you're going to interview one of the flat earthers?
Yeah, because if he went out and changed his mind, I'm interested in people who change their mind.
You mean like a Steven Crowder changed my mind, flat
or
earth?
that, or just why do you have that? I mean, I've interviewed cult members, different people. That's interesting to me, and I think it's healthy to change minds. Speaking of which, one of the most famous atheists in the world, Richard Dawkins, has left his own atheist foundation because of trans.
It's amazing how many. There's two parts of the story. That part, and there's also the part of how many institutions that were started by people get forced out of their own institutions. I was thinking about The Intercept with Glenn Greenwald. He got forced out of there. So many people get forced out. O'Keefe got forced out of his organization by these institutions are easily taken over. And I think
corporations, companies, Apple, Steve Jobs, Cisco, their founders.
Well, that's legal though. I mean, that's legit, right?
They get fired from their own company. They found a company and they get kicked out of them.
Okay.
O'Keefe establishes a company and they get kicked out.
That sounds like what happened to him here.
Yeah.
I mean, he left on his own, but they flooded it with trans people, right? Who?
Well, they literally are going into the religion. It's kind of like Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah.
They've been completely taken over because they're ultimately leftists.
Yeah. Wow, that's so dark, bro. That's so dark.
And for sure. Todd Toothy, watch Eric. He may plot a coup. No, there is no coup. I already have the keys to everything, guys. No coup needed. But thank you very much. Anyway, all
right. What else you got in the hopper there? That was a good one.
Last one here. Because you can go into this. This is a topic that's
we
near
saw
and
this
dear.
we saw this thing coming. That's for sure.
Well, this is with Bobby Kennedy's involved. He's into that.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong here? Giving schizoid type personalities psychedelics. But of course, it's about me using acid, Mark, at a Fish concert. So the entire national policy should be built around my experience at a Fish concert. I'm saying that sarcastically, but they are now going to use psychedelics for therapy in Colorado. First of all, psychedelics are so powerful, and the combination of schizophrenia and the need for these things, this is an accident waiting to happen. And a lot of the cities are trying to bow out of it. Colorado Springs are trying to get out of it. And this is going to be the first state, I think, up in places in California or even in Oregon, they already started doing this. So this is the next thing after the normalization of marijuana. Weiner up in San Francisco, Scott Weiner, tried to get this through Sacramento and through the California political machine, and even he failed. So he changed all the different rules of using psychedelics for therapy because he wants to use psychedelics for therapy. And even this was even a bridge too far for Newsom, to sum it up. In California, this was a bridge too far for Newsom. But Weiner's not done here. Colorado is apparently going to go for it. It's an accident waiting to happen.
Now, I heard somewhere like ayahuasca is like one of the hot things, and they fly people down, and they have like vomiting buddies, or people hold them while they vomit, all that. But somebody was saying that like for some people who are really, really messed up, it can reset them and be okay.
Again,
but the people who are normal, it'll make them crazy sometimes.
Again, they are creating mass policy for individuals that it may or may not have worked for or benefited an individual. That alone is insane. What I'm talking about is,
Mhm.
although you have been taking acid and it hasn't affected you, doesn't mean you make a national policy based on your personal experience of anything, And people can't seem to wrap their mind around my argument saying just because X drug you enjoy doesn't mean you legalize it and give it out to everybody. But apparently that's people's pervasive attitude.
Well, and I mean, unfortunately, the medical institution has shamed themselves to
Yeah.
such a degree that
Yeah.
it's untrustworthy. There was a point of
Yes.
time
Yes.
that you might go to a Dr. Drew and he could really explore and look at your charts and maybe
Oh, he's not gonna
prescribe.
do it.
Well, no,
Drew
he
is-
won't. But okay, but
There are plenty of croakers and frauds who will. I mean, there's a guy in Beverly Hills, which is where what's his name, Matthew Perry, was getting his ketamine from, who opened up a medical clinic in Beverly Hills to give out liquid ketamine through an IV drop and drip, and people were lined up around the block, and everybody knew it was a sham. But he had a license. He was licensed to do it. Everyone going there was very happy to get the ketamine and trip their balls off all weekend. Matthew Perry wasn't enough for him, so he had to get more of it, and eventually had health problems from it, leading to whatever happened to him, which we don't have to go into. But there's always someone who is going to be the guy to give it out with a medical license. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, Michael Jackson's doctor.
Yeah. Oh,
Had
yeah.
a doctor.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, this wraps this section up. We're at 2 hours. It's a pretty good show. Again, if you liked us, consider subscribing.
Don't do it.
If you don't, well, thanks for coming by.
Don't do it. Just come, stop by periodically. Don't let anybody know anything. Just, we're not going to even notify you when we're on. You know, people ask, when is the show on? I go, you know, they're not getting a notification. I don't need a notification. I know it's on Tuesday and Friday at 5:30. It's not like we pick random times. I always think they're kidding when they ask me that. You know, I didn't get a notification for your show. I'm going like, it's not like we're moving the show around. It's always been the same time for 3 years.
I know. And then when I posted on X, why don't you post a time with it? It's like, well, when you click the link, it starts in 3 hours, or 2 hours,
But
or
I know,
whatever.
okay, I'm just an idiot, but I know that Viva and Barnes are on at 3 o'clock on Sunday. I don't need a notification to know that. Am I crazy, or is this just a thing that you need to be notified for?
It's a common thing. But you know what? If you do want to know, hey, there's a show coming today, you can always follow me on X for free. Or better still, if you go to our locals, become a member for free, or you could choose to support us, which really does help us out a lot, gives you a lot of extra material. You will know because I will post on locals, and the show also runs on locals, and you can watch the repeats on locals, like after the fact.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You don't have time. You can watch it without any ads at all.
All those bitter
Plus
balls
the after
who are
party.
complaining about the ads could watch it for free on locals with no ads, right?
Correct. There are no ads there. I don't do I don't move the ball. I don't make it supporters only. It is on locals for anybody who's a locals member, which is free.
Right. So you don't get any ads.
No ads. You can watch all the episodes.
Let me ask you something. What do you make of this credit score thing by Musk with X?
I think
it's very confusing. It's very confusing.
Did I send you my conversation with Grok?
Yes, I think you did. It's okay. It made it even more confusing.
Well, I think that was the point. It was like hearing back in double speak. You cannot tell me that it's a social credit score and not acknowledge that it at least resembles the CCP credit score. You could say things like, well, it doesn't do your banking. Like, well, okay.
Well, Robert was twisting himself into a pretzel.
I know he was.
Right? About how it's not a suppression of free speech.
I sent it to him, and I actually sent the same thing to him, and I was like, okay, well, let me see what he says. And he said all that, and I get it. And Robert's stance, I do agree with, in the sense, like if you come into locals or you're in the chat here and you're typing NI, other letters and stuff, you're gone. Okay, I'm going to throw your ass out. I know that you have freedom of speech in the world, but you're being a disruptive asshat, and I'm going to toss you.
Oh, that's
I'm
what he
sorry.
said too.
And that's a fair statement of saying in our thing. So it is a very weird balance. He is correct on Gab. I don't know if you've been on Gab before.
No,
Mark.
I've never been on. Am I missing something on Gab? Do they hate the Jews there too?
Yes, you would feel feel the warmth of Gab.
You have no. I wish I would have kept a tally on how many anti-Semitic comments I've deleted just from our comment section. You know what I mean? Just and we're not even talking about Jewish stuff. I mean, God knows what's going on at Gab.
Right. So there is a weird, balance in there. And as a matter of fact, that's you know what? Let me pull that story up because it is such a weird story showing the awkwardness of this situation. I don't know if you were familiar with the Adrian Dittman thing. I think I talked about it on here. The guy who is the vocal doppelganger of Elon Musk.
Yeah, right. You did talk about it, yeah.
Okay, well, there is a story that came out. Somebody tracked him down in real life and said that, here, Adrian Dittman is really this guy in Fiji and had a picture of him and all that stuff. That reporter, Elon, booted off of X.
It says she. Who is she from site after she debunks?
The reporter, she was from the Spectator, I believe.
Spectator
World.
The reporter
the reporter who found the German entrepreneur living in Fiji, who sounds identical to Elon Musk.
What did she do wrong?
Well, I thought about it. It's like, okay, I get it. It wasn't that she did the story, which helps Elon Musk, show that he's really not Adrian Dittman, but she actually outed the person. Adrian Dittman is not his real name. She went too far in saying, here's this guy, here he lives, here's all that. That's called doxing. And doxing is not allowed on X, for good reason.
Right.
Well, okay.
She gave his home address or?
She gave, I guess, enough information. He's under another identity and she revealed who he was. Kind of like Taylor Lorenz did to Libs of TikTok, which is, really foul. And I'm like, okay, it's an awkward situation. I understand it, but that's where these policies, they collide with each other. And it gets to be a challenge doing it. And anytime you're dealing with Musk, he's so thin-skinned. That he's got, it's like, did he bounce them because they pissed him off today, or did he bounce them because they did so? Anyway, it's hard. I mean,
he really is thin-skinned, right, Eric?
Yes, he's very capricious in many ways, and the whole Grok score or whatever, that right there supposedly has not been implemented.
Yeah, but he may have other ideas.
Well, he does ultimately want X to become WeChat for the world.
WeChat meaning a friendlier place to live?
No, it's a Chinese app. It is such a powerful Chinese app. It handles your banking and everything. And in China, they don't care what device they have. Everybody has WeChat installed. And that
doesn't he also want Twitter to be a friendlier place? Wasn't that part of his thing, that he doesn't want nastiness on Twitter? Isn't that part of his social score idea? Or
it is, and I get it. Except, of course, he's one of the nastiest people on Twitter.
I know.
It's irony after irony after irony. So
all right.
I mean,
I get it now. I get it.
And I always feel like I'm dancing on a pin because I think Elon Musk personifies when I say net positive, meaning there's all kinds of problems, but overall, I look at he's a net positive.
I agree.
And
he may be the pit bull that Trump needs.
No, and he's been effective. I mean, look what he's doing with the Prime Minister of England.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So it's sometimes you gotta take it with the good and the bad. And I'm no genius, but
I just want to recommend a film before the show ends. It's a thing called Mads, M-A-D-S, French film, science fiction film. I don't want to get into the plot, but it's all in one shot. The entire film is one camera take. It's called MADS. came out this year, 2024. Wow, what a ride. I won't go into it, but I will recommend it strongly.
Okay, sounds good. And we could continue talking about the films and maybe when we go to locals, a tip off what our plans are for upcoming shows that we're doing this year.
Well, they'll blab it. They'll tell others on this channel.
Yeah, well, maybe these people will go and they'll find out for themselves. But
well, if they don't come over there, they're never going to know because
our locals people can keep it tight to the chest.
I'm sure
cool.
they got the biggest mouths I've ever seen in my life. Okay, go ahead. Let's go over there.